Information fueled.
Opinion driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
7:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. How are you? You know, a couple of days ago, we had some polling that showed that the American people, this was Monday, the American people really digging what Donald Trump is doing. Now we have another poll. I'm not going to get into, really the nitty gritty of it, except to tell you that Donald Trump's approval rating with this Trafalgar poll is at 54%. People also showing Elon Musk and Doge strong support, particularly, of course, as you can imagine, amongst Republicans. You know, it is interesting. The numbers for Doge and Elon Musk, they're getting higher. They're going higher. I think the more that people are seeing what Elon and Doge are doing and exposing, the more Republicans especially are digging what they're doing. And so welcome on into your Tuesday, the 11th of February, 2025. Dan here along with Philly Joan, KGB as well. And so they talk about some of the different polling. What is your opinion of the job performance of President Donald Trump so far? Trafalgar, 54% say they approve. 45% say they disapprove. Somehow, 1% are undecided. I've always been fascinated by the undecided. Because it's like, especially now, it's like, how do you not know whether or not you approve or disapprove of Donald Trump? It is crazy. But as far as the opinion of Elon Musk as it relates to his efforts on behalf of President Trump's Doge, that obviously is about rooting out corruption and mismanagement of our government. 49% approve of what Elon Musk and Doge is doing. 44% do not approve. 7% undecided. So it is with all of that in mind that we speak a little bit about what is going on with these judges. Because I got to tell you that it is incredibly frustrating. We're just speaking to Jonathan Fahey about all of that. The president has multiple battles on his hands, right? Realize, and I just gave you the numbers, the American people agree wholeheartedly with what Donald Trump is trying to do. So by all means, Democrat appointed judges and Democrats by and large, get out there and continue judges with your lawfare. Democrats from the House of Representatives continue to screech and screech and screech because the American people are listening. Now, some people are saying that we are in a constitutional crisis because these judges are way overstepping their authority and basically legislating from the bench. We've got half a dozen decisions at least that Donald Trump has made that are currently being blocked by these activist judges. And so Scott Jennings and Abby Phillip, they went toe-to-toe on all this.
We do know that judges do get to say whether the executive is complying with the law or not. That's been the case for decades, hundreds of years.
Well, I think there's a difference between saying whether you're complying with the law and then you have these individual district court judges setting effectively broad federal policy that is specifically reserved for the president of the United States. I think we do have a constitutional crisis, and it's being caused by these judges. They're not here to tell us. They're not here to tell us how to spend the money. They're not here to set broad federal policy. That is the president's job as elected by the people. These judges are supposed to be settling discrete, specific matters, not policy setting. I think Vance is right. I think Trump has a point, and these judges want nothing more to continue the lawfare against
I don't
Trump.
think anybody's going to.
Yeah, and of course, J.D. Vance had come out, and other people within the conservative movement, they're saying, you know what? To heck with these judges. Defy the judges. Do what you want to do. I mean, clearly, the federal government and the operatives within now the Trump administration and the bureaucracy, they're doing what they want to do. In the news today, you had $59 million from FEMA sent to hotels in New York to house illegal aliens. After Donald Trump said no more funding, they just decided to do it anyway. So the swamp is doing whatever the swamp wants to do, regardless of what Donald Trump is dictating. And now they're going after those folks. But, we have this all the time. Right now, we've got these judges that have blocked Donald Trump from placing all of those USAID workers on paid leave. They blocked Donald Trump from freezing federal aid while we figure out what we should continue to pay for and what we shouldn't. They've blocked Trump and Elon Musk from accessing the Department of Treasury data. A judge has stopped Donald Trump's move to end birthright citizenship. That one I don't mind as much because there are serious constitutional questions there. Judges are trying to block Trump from sending gangbangers to Gitmo, firing bureaucrats from Biden's era. It goes all on and on. And so J.D. Vance posted this. If a judge tried to tell a general how to conduct a military operation, that would be illegal. If a judge tried to command the attorney general in how to use her discretion as a prosecutor, that's also illegal. Judges aren't allowed, according to J.D. Vance, judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. That was what he wrote. J.D. Vance, vice president, wrote on Sunday morning on X. That post came hours after Elon Musk said overnight that the judge who ruled against him should be impeached. And we're going to get to that. Basically, Donald Trump has issued a myriad of executive orders and federal judges, one by one, putting a stop to them, which is in direct contrast with what people voted for. So now you have J.D. Vance and you've got Elon Musk and you've got Scott Jennings and you've got a lot of Republicans out there that are saying that Trump does need to defy these orders. And so folks on the left, of course, they are big time disagreeing. This is a continuation of that conversation with Abby Phillips, CNN, arguing with Scott Jennings.
Every single one of these things is a distinct thing, and they're all being dealt with by different judges. So it's not broad swaths of policy here. When the court says Congress, appropriated this money, you must unfreeze it while we litigate this. Why can't Trump comply with that? So
you're saying that a judge should decide how and when money is spent
a judge is saying,
for years and not the president of the United States?
Let me explain
You're a governor,
a little bit more. Let me explain it a little bit more slowly. A judge is saying...
You don't have to talk to me like that.
Wow, you heard what you said there, right?
Let me explain it a little bit more slowly.
I mean, there are some people who simply cannot argue with a conservative, argue with a Republican without being demeaning in some way. Abby Phillip, clearly...
Let me explain it a little bit more slowly.
That is her.
I hope she apologized to him at some point.
Let me explain it a little bit more slowly.
She won't.
Yeah, definitely not.
And I love what he did defend himself. I've got that defense coming up right after the traffic because, and I think, can I tell you what I think is happening, Philly Joan? I'm going to tell you coming up. I think what's happening is that, I guess I'm going to tell you now. I think what's happening is that Abby Phillip is... Let
me explain it a little bit more slowly.
...getting tired of her show on CNN and the panel being...
wiser than she is.
Beaten by Scott Jennings.
Yeah.
Because, usually it's like Scott Jennings against 4 or 5 different progressives. And he makes them all look like fools. And so now they're getting more aggressive, but they're also getting more...
Let me explain it a little bit more slowly.
...demeaning. And he does defend himself coming up. By the way, she won't apologize. Scott Jennings has been making headlines because he really is putting those progressives in their place during Abby Phillip's show on CNN. And so she is getting more combative to try and fight back a little bit. But, when she said...
Let me explain it a little bit more slowly.
It just made her coming off as not a very nice person. So the battle did continue, but it's this whole I know better than you eye roll that really ticked off Scott Jennings.
Let me explain it a little bit more slowly. A judge is saying...
You don't have to talk to me like that.
Congress...
I have a position on this, and you have an opinion. We can disagree.
Yeah, but I'm saying, you listen to me, because you're not listening, and you're making claims that are not connected to the facts. The judge is saying...
Maybe you are.
Congress appropriated a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
We need to litigate this.
Okay.
While we litigate this, we're going to put a hold on the actions that you took that might be unconstitutional.
So while we
That's
litigate,
part of the
this,
process.
I'm a judge, and I'm in charge of the executive branch, and you're not. Forget it.
No,
I totally disagree.
So that's where we are. Now, the question is, all right, so when Joe Biden or Barack Obama did things that could be considered unconstitutional, there were also conservative judges or Republican appointed judges that would also put a stop to things. So whatever Biden or Obama or whoever was doing. So it does go both sides. But I believe, and I know that I'm going to sound like a hypocrite, but here's the deal. I believe that for all of these judges, they're just doing this to stop Trump, because there still is this stop Trump mentality going on within Washington, D.C. Now, the answer to that question, I'm arguing with myself, and I hate when I do this, but the answer to that question, why are so many judges doing this? It's because Donald Trump's doing a lot. And so they've got these, I think somebody said it, maybe it was Scott Jennings, 300 or so activist judges that they're utilizing to try to stop Donald Trump at every turn. But as I said previously, when I was speaking to Jonathan Fahey, that's why Trump started on day one to allow all of this to go through the courts. And I see what she is saying. But at the same time, I do understand that the Stop Trump movement within Washington, D.C. and all across the country, because these judges are all across the country and they're just lining up to stop Trump. So to Jennings' point, the question is, should Republicans just go ahead and defy these judges? And what happens? Remember that Biden also defied a judge's order, the Supreme Court. When the Biden administration, remember the Supreme Court said that he needed to stop with the student loan forgiveness because it was unconstitutional, and Biden's administration found workarounds. And so Republicans need to do the same thing. Find those workarounds. To Scott Jennings' point and everyone else's, Trump is trying to do what he was hired to do. And these judges are standing in his way.
No matter who the president is, the duly elected chief executive of this country, they should not be sharing the broad plenary powers of the presidency with 300 individual district court judges. That is not what the people want.
That is a great position to take when you are in power.
Yeah,
but when
I will believe it no matter what.
Exactly.
District
When you are
judges
not
are
in
different than
power,
the Supreme Court.
It's a totally different situation.
Are you going to continue to have that?
I don't believe district court judges have more power than the chief executive president of the United States.
We will hold you to that, Scott Jennings.
Good luck winning an election in 4 years, by the way. With the current state of the Democratic Party.
I mean, he's absolutely right. That last comment, good luck winning an election with the state of the Democrat Party. And he is absolutely right. So Jennings' issue, obviously, is that all progress stops while this very slowly makes their way through the courts, and is frustrating for everyone involved. So there are some people on both sides of the aisle that are saying that we are currently in a constitutional crisis. Now, you know what crisis is gone? The crisis at the southern border. Coming up right before the news, we're going to hear from the Trump administration on how things are going at the southern border while the Democrats remain unhinged. It is 7:20 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Find us on YouTube, watch the radio show, take the Daily Dan poll as well, and be sure to, when you go to YouTube and you watch us, like and subscribe as well, and throw us a bone. We'd really appreciate it.